I will never forget the day I realized that I've been making a critical budgeting mistakes for so many years. And this problem has actually been creating a big hole in my pocket, because at the end of every month I was unable to meet up my finances, my savings, and my investments. I was living beyond my means, and it was causing me immense financial stress. But then I learned the secret to creating a budget that actually works for me. And that's why I am bringing this video to you, so that you can also learn these top secrets on how you can actually, be able to sustain your budget from one particular month to another. In this video, we are going to share the top 10 budgeting mistakes that we all make, and provide practical advice on how we can actually correct them, so that we can avoid the financial pitfall that actually hold us back in our finances. So, are you actually tired of living from paycheck to paycheck? Do you struggle to make ends meet despite working really hard? Because a lot of us are actually working really hard, but we find it very difficult to make ends meet, and that's why we are actually living from paycheck to paycheck every month. I want you to know that you are not alone in this situation, and this video will be providing lasting solutions to this problem. So join me as we dive into this lecture now. I want you to know that in this video we are going to explore the top 10 budgeting mistakes that we make, and provide actionable tips on how to correct them, so that you can take control of your finances and achieve financial freedom. Because when you achieve financial freedom, that is when you can actually have what we call financial independence. When you have financial independence, that means you can be able to acquire those things that you want, one after the other, and you can actually live that life which you wanted for yourself. So I'm going to provide more details on each of these 10 budgeting mistakes, and also offer actionable tips to help you improve your financial management. Now, here are some detailed explanations of each mistake, along with what I call solutions. Number one mistake, or budgeting mistakes, that we make in our lives, including every one of us, which we are all guilty of, is not tracking our expenses. A lot of us don't track our expenses. We spend money without making accountability for that money. We have this insatiable urge to consume everything we see. We have this grab nature in our system, and this grab nature in our system actually propels us or catapults us to buy whatever we see. However, this is not supposed to be the case. So we need to track our budget. So failing to monitor where your money is actually going is a very big problem. So each time you actually spend your money, you should be able to make an account for the money you've actually spent. You should be able to know where that money is actually going into. Most cases, or most times, we hold some large chunks of money in our pocket, and before you know it, that money is gone. And you begin to ask yourself, what did I actually buy? How did I spend this money? The problem is because you have not been tracking your expenses. You need to track the expenses. When you track your expenses, then you'll be able to know where your money is actually going. So for you to be able to do this, you need to use what I call a budgeting app. There are so many budgeting apps out there that you can actually use to track your expenses. Apart from that, if you don't know how to get these budgeting apps, you can also get what I call a spreadsheet, or simply keep a notebook to record your every transactions. When you are able to keep this notebook to record your every transactions, then you can be able to monitor your expenses. Number two, budgeting mistakes that we actually make in our lives is what I call not setting financial goals. You see, when you don't have financial goals in life, it's a very big problem, and a lot of us are actually guilty of this. If you are actually asked you what is actually your financial goals, most of us cannot even define what is our financial goals. You need a financial goal in your life to survive in this capitalist system or free market economic system. So you need to set your financial goals, and for you to be able to set your financial goals, the common mistakes that we make is that we create budgeting without clear objectives. We create budgeting without clear objectives. When you have a budget without a clear objective, without a defined objectives, you will discover that at the end of the day, you might not be able to meet up your budgetary plan at the end of every month. And this problem will continue from first month, second month, third month, and it will continue like that, and to become what I call a cultural, budgetary inappropriation or budgetary lack of planning at the end of the day. So for you to be able to avoid this, not setting financial goals, you need to define what I call short-term and long-term goals, and also be able to allocate your funds accordingly. So you need to define what are your short-term goals, and you also need to define what are your long-term goals. So you need to be able to define your short-term goals, and you should also be able to define your long-term goals, differentiate them, and also allocate resources for them accordingly at the end of the day. Then number three, budgeting mistakes that most people actually make in their life is that we underestimate our expenses. We actually underestimate our expenses. You see, under budgeting can actually make us to underestimate our budgeting. And when we have this under budgeting for our financial situations or plannings, we discover that we might not be able to achieve those things at the end of the day. People under budget for regular expenses. So if you find yourself in this situation, then there is always a solution for you. And what is that solution? You need to review your past expenses and per categories. You need to review your past expenses, that is, how do you actually spend your money at one particular time or the other. For example, in the area of expenses, allocating money for one thing or the other, or also in the area of entertainment. Because in this part of our world, people put more priorities to entertainment, and at the end of the day, you realize that in most cases, people always spend beyond their budgetary plan or expenses. And what happens when you have this situation? You might not be able to have a balanced budget at the end of the month, and that's why people are always living from paycheck to paycheck, from one debt to another debt every time. So this needs to be corrected. Then number four, budgeting mistake that people make that makes them not to have a balanced budget and also be able to save money and also invest part of this money is not accounting for your or our irregular expenses. You see, irregular expenses are actually expenses that we don't plan for. They are expenses that come out at any point in time, and in most cases, they are actually expenses that we don't even prepare for. They just come up like that, and part of these expenses are, impulse buying, Impulse buying, insatiable urge for everything we see. Impulse buying, you see this, you want to buy this, you see that, you want to buy that, and at the end of the day, you are unable to meet up with your budget. So, failing to budget for infrequent expenses such as car maintenance can actually, affect your budget at the end of the month. And what you need to do in this situation is that you need to set aside funds for each month for these expenses and make allocations for them when they are actually needed. So those impulse buying, those unexpected expenses, those irregular expenses, what you need to do is to create a fund for them every month, so that when these irregular expenses or what you don't prepare for actually come up, you can actually be able to take from that money you have created or allocated for them and use the money to fund them. So in other words, you should create another avenue or fund for such irregular expenses. And I can bet you, by the time you do this, you'll be able to meet up your budget at the end of the month. Then number 5 budgeting mistakes that people also make is not prioritizing want over need. Not prioritizing want over need. Now, what do I mean by this? Allocating too much to discretionary spending is a very, very big problem. People allocate too much money or a lot of money for discretionary spending. Now, I will quickly enumerate or explain the differences between wants and the differences between needs, so that you can be able to know what is your want and what is actually your need. Let me start by needs. What is actually needs? You see, needs are actually essential expenses that are necessary for survival, our well-being, and basic living standard. Do you understand now? That is your need. So needs are essential expenses that are that you need for your survival, for your well-being, and for your basic living standards. Now, what are these needs? They include housing. And when you talk about housing, you're talking about rent, mortgage, and utilities. We're talking about food and groceries. We are talking about number 3, clothing and personal care. Then number 4, we're talking about education and personal development. And number 5, we are talking about transportation. And number 6, we are also talking about healthcare and personal care. And number 7, we are talking about minimum debt payment, like credit cards and loans. And then number 8, which is the last one, we're talking about insurance, such as health, life, and disability. All these things I've actually mentioned now, they come under your needs. Now you understand what we mean by needs. They are essential expenses that are necessary or needed for survival, well-being, and basic living standard. I've mentioned them now. Now, what about wants? What are wants? Wants are discretionary expenses that enhances our lifestyle. Can you see the differences there? They are actually discretionary expenses that actually enhances our lifestyle, provide entertainment, or satisfy our desires. So they are different from each other. So your need should have more priority over your wants, because wants are discretionary expenses that actually enhances our lifestyle. They provide entertainment, and they also satisfy our needs. Now, what are those wants? Number 1 is when you dine out, when you go out there to a restaurant and you go out there to eat. Dining out is an example of what? Of your wants. Number 2 is what I call vacation and travels. Number 3 is hobbies and recreational activities. And number 4 is what I call entertainment. Sometimes you might want to go out there to watch movies, concerts, streaming services, and the rest of them. Then number 5 is what I call luxury items. Luxury items. A lot of us actually love luxury items, and they are designer clothes, jewelries, gadgets, and the rest of them. They fall under luxury items. Then we also have number 6, which is what we call impulse purchases. Impulse purchases. Now, when I talk about impulse purchases, they are, things that you never expect. They are just impromptu. They come up at any point in time, and you have to satisfy them. You have to buy them. So we call them impulse purchases. They also have subscription services, like when you go to your gym or gym membership or streaming platform. They fall under subscription services. So now we can be able to differentiate between needs and wants. Now we now know that when you talk about needs, there are things that we actually needed for our basic survival. But when you're talking about wants, they are discretionary expenses that actually enhances our lifestyle. For you to be able to solve this problem, then you should be able to prioritize essential expenses such as housing, food, and utilities. Then allocate funds for discretionary spending. That is, you allocate funds for what I call wants, but your needs should supersede your wants. Now, then another budgeting mistakes that people also make, which is my number 6, is not building emergency fund, not building for emergency funds. A lot of us are always guilty of this, and that's why when life actually happens, we dip our hands into our investment portfolios and we take from that money, and before you know it, you start taking money. Before you know, you start taking money or dipping your hands into your investment portfolios. And as you dip your hands into that investment portfolios, which is supposed to be a decade of sacrifice, your money begins to dwindle or go down, which is not supposed to be the case. So you must build for what I call emergency, funds. Emergency happens, life happens, anything can happen at any point in time. So you need to avoid these emergencies or events or circumstances that happen in the life. So lack of saving for unnecessary or unexpected expenses can actually create what I call pitfalls in our budgets. So we need to avoid this problem. Now, for us to be able to avoid this problem, you need to save for at least 3 to 6 months worth of expenses in an easily accessible savings account, so that if emergency happens, you can actually be able to take part of that money to solve your problems. Number 7 budgeting mistakes that people make is not budgeting for inflation. Not budgeting for inflation. You would agree with me, but all over the world now, there is inflation all over the place. The prices of goods and services are actually going up without corresponding with money in the pocket. And when this happens, what happens? It means that your money might not actually have a value. So in this inflationary trend, you need to prepare yourself, because failing to plan is planning to actually fail. So not budgeting for inflation, not preparing for inflation might actually create a hole in your pocket. So failing to account for rising costs might affect your budget at the end of the day. So for you to be able to rescue yourself and catapult yourself from this financial incapability or financial mess, then you need to regularly review and adjust your budget to reflect inflation, and then also consider investing or increasing in your asset investment that can actually perform during the period of an inflationary period. Now, what do I mean by this? What I mean is that you need to regularly review and adjust your budget. As the inflationary trend is dynamic and changing over time, you should be able to also be dynamic in your budget. You review your budget over and over according to the spectrum of the inflationary trend. And apart from that, it should be able to reflect the spectrum, the dynamics of the inflationary trend. And also, you should be able to invest more in assets, most especially in this period. If you've been watching my video, I've always stated that in a period of inflation, it is actually a blessing to a lot of people, for those that have financial education. So when you have financial education, inflation is actually the best time to actually invest, because during the period of inflation, money, the value of money loses its value, and if you have actually been saving your money in the bank, your money might not actually work for you. And that's why in a period of inflation or in a period of economic crisis, that is actually the time to actually invest. If you want more of that video, please go and watch my videos. They are out there for you on my channel. Number 8 is not paying up your high interest rates. That's another budgeting mistakes that people actually make. Not paying up their high interest rates. You see, in a period of inflation, it is not actually advisable for you to borrow money, because at this period of time, the money you are actually going to be borrowed is going to attract high interest rates. And that's why I always advise people not to borrow money in the period of inflation. But you can also borrow money if you actually have a tangible, productive, and well-articulated business plan that you wanted to make. You can actually make more money in this period as well. But if that money is not going to generate any money or income for you, don't borrow the money, because in a period of inflation, interest rate is always very, very high. So a lot of people in this period, they fail to pay up their high interest rates, and because they fail to pay up their high interest rate, it will always attract a punishment. So not optimizing debt repayment or credit card usage can actually attract a lot of penalties, but there's actually a way out. In this period, you need to focus more on paying high interest debt first. Consider consolidating debt and use credit card with low interest rates or cashback reward. What we're saying here is that you need to pay up your high interest rate debt so that you can actually not find yourself in this economic olubalu. Do you get it now? So you need to pay up your debt, and when you pay up your debt, there's every chances, that is 99.9% chances, that you will have a balanced budget at the end of the day, where you can actually spend part of this money, you can actually save some part of this money for emergency, and you can also invest part of your money at the end of every financial month, because now you are following your budget. Then number 9, budgeting mistakes that people also make is not taking advantage of employer matching. Now, what do I mean by not taking advantage of employer matching? You see, not maximizing employer matched retirement account can actually create a problem. Now, what do I mean by that? You see, a lot of us that we are actually working in organizations that we are being paid gratuities every month in form of retirement, KO1 or IRA or RSA. To get that, we get paid at the end of the month in form of gratuity, so that at the end of the day, when you are actually retiring, you can have something to fall back on. So in this situation, you discover that most people don't even take an advantage of this. And what we're saying here is that you need to contribute enough money in this situation. Like for example, IRA, individual retirement account. You need to create what I call individual retirement account, where you can also be putting money personally, apart from the money your employer is giving at the end of every month. You can also be contributing to your retirement account. And when you are doing this, what are you doing? You are building up wealth for yourself at the end of the day. Some people don't even know that when you have a retirement account, you are being paid interest. A lot of us, we are being paid interest every day, because I, for one, I am a beneficiary of this. I have a retirement account, and apart from that, I also have my investment account. So that means I have two, multi, platforms that are actually creating money for me every day. I get paid on my retirement account every day, and I also get paid on my investment account every day. And at the end of the month also, I also get paid salary. So what happens is that when I get my salary, I actually take some part of that money into my investment. Then my employer also pay me some amount of money every month. So you can see there that in this situation like this, even when you are actually retiring and you are not working again, money is already working for you. So when you are not working, money is actually working for you, because money does not like to be stagnant. It does not like to stay in one place. Money likes moving around, and that's why money loves investors so much, because they use money to create multiplier money, or to create what we call compounded money, or they use it to create more money for themselves. And that is the spirit of investment, of having financial education. So you need to contribute enough to take full advantage of your employer matching, as it is also very essential for you to build wealth in this process. Number 10 budgeting mistakes that people make, and this creates what we call financial pitfall, is that they don't review or adjust their budget. They don't review or adjust their budget. You see, as a rational human being, you need to review and adjust your budget every time. So failing to regularly adjust or review your budget can actually create a financial pitfall for you at the end of the day. So you need to regularly adjust and review your budget to correspond with the trending economic situation, because the economic system is changing every day, it's changing, it's dynamic. So you must also be dynamic with your budget. And how do you do this? You need to review and adjust your budget on a regular basis. You can do this regularly or biannually. You understand? You can do it maybe every month. You can do it every 3 months. You can do it every 6 months. You can also do it at every 9 months or every year. So in other words, you can do it maybe every month to be able to have a comprehensive and well-balanced budget. And when you do this every time, you are actually trying to adjust to the changing socio-political economic system as it relates to the system of economy in the society. That is, you are actually catching up, and you are also changing the pattern at which you are also changing with the trending economic situation in the country. So for you to be able to stay on track, for you to be able to build up your budget, then you need all these 10 factors I've actually stated so far. So at the end of the day, you can have financial wealth. You can be able to build your wealth over time. You can be able to create generational wealth. You can be able to create a situation where you don't need to beg for food, or call your children before they can actually send money for you. Because I have people that find themselves in this situation, that most of them are actually old now, and some of them will start calling their children. I'm hungry, I've not eaten since morning, I've not eaten since for some days now. And the children, because they are not well to do, they are just struggling. They will tell their parents. One even said, if the mother wants to die, she should go and die, because she cannot kill herself. You understand now? So if you don't want to find yourself in this situation, then you need to start planning. So by avoiding these common mistakes, you'll be better equipped to manage your finances effectively, achieve your goals, and secure a stronger financial future for yourself that is devoid of depression, that is devoid of hypertension, that is devoid of health complication, that is devoid of brooding every time, thinking every time, that is devoid of mental stress, that is devoid of mental disability, that is devoid of suicidal tendencies. So if you want a brighter future for yourself, I think this video is very, very good for you. And I believe by the time you actually put into place all these things that I've stated so far, it will help you to go a very long way, and you will live a very bright financial future. You will have what I call financial independence, because the hallmark of investment, the hallmark of what we're saying here, is to have financial independence, where you can actually be able to live a good life. You can be able to eat what you like. You can go on vacation. You can enjoy your money. You can relax. There is no stress. There is no problem. There is no depression. There is no brooding. There is no mental disability. Because when you don't have money, it can lead to depression. When you don't have money and you're poor, it can lead to suicidal tendencies. A lot of people have actually taken their life. A lot of people have actually died today because of this problem. While they are walking on the road, they are not conscious of themselves. They will just cross the express, and the car will just push them and just kill them just like that, because of financial stress or financial problems they are actually going through. So if you don't want this for yourself, then it is high time for you to start planning for the future. If you have actually gained something from this video, it is time to subscribe it now. Don't forget to leave your comment on how I can actually serve you better. And don't also forget to share the videos to people out there that need this video. So till I meet you next time, thank you so much.